Read the lads and lasses, how we're doing, and welcome back to the channel. With the FA Cup out of the way, it's time to focus on the Premier League as Newcastle United take on Wolverhampton Wanderers on Saturday, and it's a vital game for Newcastle United. As is every single game recently for Newcastle, it's a cup final and it's a must-win game. This game against Gary O'Neill's men is kind of going to pave the way to where our season is going to go. Currently, as of right now, Wolverhampton Wanderers are 1 point ahead of Newcastle United in the Premier League table. If we want any sort of breathing space and if we want to go on our road to the European spots, this game is a must-win one. And I tell you what, actually our first bat, I'm not looking too confident. But without further ado, let's take a look at some statistics on Wolverhampton Wanderers themselves and a little bit of team news. Without further ado, let's get into my match preview. And just before we begin, we spoke about the FA Cup just a little bit in the intro there. What is going on with our draw luck, ladies and gentlemen? In the Champions League, Paris Saint-Germain, AC Milan, Dortmund, Carabao Cup, Manchester City, Man United, Chelsea, and actually in the Carabao Cup, we broke the record for drawing the most Premier League teams in a row, the FA Cup. We'll go and get Manchester City away. Honestly, look, it's not impossible, but it nearly is. And look, enough about the FA Cup. It's Wolverhampton Wanderers on Saturday, and actually speaking of the FA Cup, we did just beat Blackburn Rovers on penalties. We do not want to replicate that performance going into this game against Wolverhampton Wanderers. As we'll speak later in the video, they are no mugs to Newcastle United. Gary O'Neill's men are high and flying. Of course, right now, they are higher than us in the Premier League. We wouldn't have expected that before the season started, but look, credit where credit's due. They've done absolutely fantastic, and we will touch upon them in just a bit. But on Newcastle United, as always before the opposition, we haven't got that much team news, and I'll tell you why. I'm recording this on the Wednesday, of course. We'll get team news the day before the game. I've got to do it right now because I am pretty busy days later on. But we can make up our own team news, and of course we are going to right now. Elliot Anderson came back against Blackburn, and he had a little cameo as well. He took his penalty fantastic. Was it the third or fourth penalty he took? I think it was the third, just off the top of my head. He looked decent, and what I liked about Elliot Anderson, and of course Joe Willock and Alexander Isak did start in that game as well, so that's two more players we can expect to be fit for Wolves if they didn't pick up any miraculous injuries like they always seem to. Joe Willock and Elliot Anderson, they are two midfielders which I think will be pivotal in this game. They will be crucial in this game. In a bog standard midfield that we play with, Bruno G, Sean Longstaff on the right, and of course Lewis Miley on the left. Look, I love Lewis Miley, and I love Sean Longstaff, and I love Bruno. He's not really the problem here. He's absolutely fantastic. But with Lewis Miley and Sean Longstaff on either side of midfield, I have a feeling they do the same job. They're both a little bit slow. They don't offer that much going forward, and they don't offer that much coming backwards. Now, I don't want to hack Lewis Miley because, of course, he's just a couple of months older than me. He's been putting in fantastic, exceptional performances for a 17-year-old. I don't actually think he's the person to blame here. It's Sean Longstaff that needs taking out the team for me. His performances, they haven't been good whatsoever. Lewis Miley is an exception. He's 17 years old and he's been putting in better performances than Sean. I don't like to hack down on Sean Longstaff, but what we've seen recently, these performances have genuinely been anonymous. I swear to God, sometimes when I've been watching them, I forgot he's been playing. He's rolling on the floor. He doesn't offer anything going forwards or backwards. Like, genuinely, I don't see what Sean Longstaff's role in the team is right now. He's not replicating the performances that he was last season into this season. So what needs to happen for me in midfield going against Wolverhampton Wanderers, because it's been so leaky recently, of course, that'll be a big part of that as well. Bruno starts in the midfield area, as he always does. Lewis Miley starts on the left. Of course, he was sort of rested against Blackburn, subbed on, then subbed off, and give Sean Longstaff nearly 120 minutes of football. That, to me, suggests that Sean Longstaff will come out, will not start against Wolverhampton Wanderers if he's not been dropped against Blackburn. He's played 120 minutes. Can he play 90 minutes a few days later? Honestly, I don't know. But the midfield I would go for Wolverhampton Wanderers, and you let me know down below if you agree. Bruno in the middle, typical. Lewis Miley on the left, or even Lewis Miley on the right, and then Joe Willock on the left. What I was going to say with Joe Willock and Elliot Anderson is they are similar midfielders, kind of like Joe Linton as well. You need someone which, like I was saying, Lewis Miley and Sean Longstaff kind of do the same role, but Elliot Anderson, Joe Willock and Joe Linton defend the ball. They have that sort of intensity to get forward but get back as well. That's what I really like about them players, and we need at least one of them. We can't continue in midfield of Lewis Miley and Sean Longstaff. We've been leaking goals. One pass has been cutting straight through left, right and centre. And something which I didn't actually say, what's your score prediction for this game? Let me know your thoughts on the game upcoming against Wolves down below, and the score prediction as well. Now, there's another thing what I think is pivotal in this game, before we get on to Wolves, which I think you will guess yet again. Tino has to start. Now, it's becoming a regular thing. I don't think Dan Burn actually played bad against Blackburn. I thought he was actually pretty decent. He was pretty good. But Tino has to start in this game for one reason and one reason only. That is Wolves' attackers. Now, thankfully for Newcastle United, Wolverhampton Wanderers striker, I think he even plays a 10 sometimes as well, Matheus Cunha, who is a fantastic footballer. He's so explosive. He's got that pace and he's got pretty decent finishing as well. He is injured for this game. He misses this game against Newcastle United, which for them is definitely a negative. But for us, it's a big, big plus because him running at our defence when it's been leaky recently, I wouldn't fancy our chances. And he can crack one from outside the box as well, which would be very, very dangerous for Newcastle United, shall we just say. But what I was going to say is Pedro Neto, arguably one of the best performing wingers in the Premier League this season, he could be running at Dan Burn. Now, of course, he does play on the left-hand side, which wouldn't be going at Dan Burn, but he is very versatile. He can swap between the 10s, and even if it's not Pedro Neto against him, it'll be Hwang Hee-chan, who, as we've seen, of course, at the Molineux Stadium this season, where we drew 2-2, was it? Or did we get beat 2-1? I can't exactly remember. Honestly, that's just off the top. Actually, I think we got beat 2-1. I can't exactly remember. But Hwang Hee-chan has already kind of rinsed Dan Burn this season. He cut the ball back. Dan Burn went sliding in, and he actually scored from that as well. We don't want to say a replication of that. We don't want to say that yet again. Tino must start in this. And I think why Dan Burn started in this game and didn't get brought off yet again is so Tino can start against Wolverhampton Wanderers. And what I've actually been thinking is, I think when people say when Eddie Howe's had his favourites, I think Eddie Howe is starting to realise now his job security is getting a bit shaky. Should he be sacked? Absolutely not. No way in hell. I want to see him here at Newcastle United until the day I die. Honestly, I wouldn't want to see anyone else there. Not just because what he does on the pitch, where he's got what, but because of how he speaks and manages the players and all that sort of stuff. But what I've been realising, his favourites are starting to go a little bit out of fashion now. Yes, they did just play against Blackburn, but I can see Eddie, with this job security being a little bit shaky, of course. We've just been drawn against Manchester City. We could be out with 3 cup competitions and 10th in the league right now. I think he's going to start to get them out. He needs to be brutal to secure this job. I think this is what Eddie Howe's going to do. Now, finally, moving on to Wolverhampton Wanderers. I've said it in the start of the video. They are doing fantastic this season. Credit to Gary O'Neill, because it doesn't look like he's getting results on the pitch. It looks like he's actually building something with the fan base of Wolverhampton Wanderers and the players as well. They all look so happy after a win. I remember, was it against Stamford? Was it against Stamford Bridge? Was it against Chelsea, where they won 4-2 at Stamford Bridge? He was doing the sort of punches in the air. The fans, the players all look so connected. And I don't think that's what it's like in Newcastle at the minute. The players didn't look like they seemed to be playing for Eddie Howe with Blackburn. Honestly, enough about Newcastle, because it's not been the best recently. But Wolves, as we were saying, they are 9th, we are 10th. They are 1 point ahead of us in the league table. I don't need to say it again. This is a game we need to win 110%. When we've dropped points against the likes of Luton and Bournemouth, who did play fantastic against us, but we should be beating them, the sort of harder games we need to win, we have to win. Wolves recently, they've done fantastic, like I've just said. A recent win against Sheffield United at home, which actually they only won 1-0, which isn't that convincing. I couldn't expect us to do any better recently. A 2-1 win away against Spurs. They've been high and flying yet again. I remember when they were title contenders at the start of the season. I can't remember anything being said about Ange Postecoglou in a very long time now. They got beat off Brentford 2-0 at the... No, it was at the Molineux, actually. It wasn't the G-Tech Community Stadium. The form is a bit shaky, but they still have done very, very good. Of course, as of right now, as I'm recording, they are beating Brighton in the FA Cup. That could be yet another win for them. They beat West Brom in the previous round of that. So they are no mugs to Newcastle United. They are picking points up left, right and centre. And this is how they would line up. I did just mention it earlier. Jose Saw, he's played against us a fair few times. And I've actually got a very, very worrying stat between Newcastle United and Wolverhampton Wanderers, which I don't want to say whatsoever. Pedro Neto, very, very fast, versatile. One of the best wingers we've seen in the Premier League this season. I've already touched upon him. Hwang Hee-chan will look to play striker though. There's Pablo Sarabia on the right, who yet again is yet another fantastic player. We don't want these wingers to be coming against Dan Burn, who lacks pace. And actually, with aerial threat, we don't need that against Wolves. Hwang Hee-chan, Matheus Cunha, even though he is injured, Pedro Neto, Pablo Sarabia. There are Wolverhampton Wanderers' main 4 forwards. They do not pose an aerial threat whatsoever. However, I believe they do have a striker, an Austrian striker called Kalajdzic or something like that. He is a very, very tall striker, so if he does come on, it's simple as put down Burn on 14-11 men. Or that's been another negative of Eddie Howe recently, actually. I don't like to keep saying it, but substitutions at the wrong right time, bringing on the right and wrong players, it hasn't worked. And honestly, where's Lewis Hall been if you can't get a minute against a championship side? I don't know what that lad's future is going to be at Newcastle United. But all in all, against Wolves, there's many players we do have to look out for. João Gomez in the middle, he's been fantastic. Mario Lemina, who played for Southampton and Fulham, he didn't do too well there. He's went to Wolves. He's been playing fantastic. Nelson Semedo and Ryan Nuri, I believe it is, on the wing backs. They are very fast. They are going to just bomb on against Newcastle United. That's where our fullbacks will be pivotal. Kieran Trippier at 110%. Back him in this game, although he did slip up against Wolves at St James's Park last season. But Tino has to start for me. You let me know down below if you would rather start Tino Livramento. But there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. That was the match preview and a little bit of statistics on Wolverhampton Wanderers because, of course, they won't be any mugs to us whatsoever. If I'm going to go for an honest score prediction, I think Newcastle will win this game 2-1. I can see Wolves scoring. Our defence yet again has been so poor. Even Blackburn, who were 16th in the Championship, gave us a phenomenal game. They were creating chances left, right and centre yet again. We do not want to replicate that performance. What was it, Ewood Park, to what's going to happen at St James's Park on Saturday. We'll get beat 5-0 if that happens against Wolves. But anyways, a final score prediction yet again, 2-1. Can I see Newcastle even scoring 2 goals against Wolves? I think St James's Park will be the factor. Something needs to change and something needs to change quickly. We can't keep playing how we have been recently, especially against Blackburn. That was absolutely terrible. But full faith in Eddie House Mags. Come on the lads, do us proud on Saturday. Of course, you can expect a match day vlog for that. Like if you did enjoy the video, subscribe if you are new around here. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I've been Josh. Go and enjoy your day, people.